Our service opens with the recitation of Psalm 23, first in the Hebrew, and then you're welcome to join me in the translation. Mizmor LaDavid, Adonai ro'i lo echsar binodeshe yarbitzeni, almei menuchot yinahaleni. Nafshi yeshovev yancheni b'magle tzedek lema'an shemo. Gam ki elech b'geit salmavet lo irara ki ata imadi. Shiftecha umishantecha heme yanachmoni. Taroch lefanai shulchan neged tzororai dishanta v'Hashem enoshi kosrevaya. Aktova chesed yirdefuni kol yemei chayai. V'shapti v'veit Adonai le'orech yamim. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me to lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He guides me in straight paths for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou hast anointed my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord forever.
We've gathered here today to express our deep abiding love and honor and say goodbye to our dear beloved Judy McConnell, who was taken from us this week. Our hearts are heavy with grief, and there is a veil of tears that covers our eyes as we contemplate the loss of one who filled the lives of her family and all of her friends who were all like family, and all those that she touched with light and love and joy, and with teachings of wisdom and strength and faith and courage. It's hard to contemplate that she is gone from this physical world. But she will always be with us, and we will always feel her spirit and her presence. And today we seek to find comfort by immersing ourselves in memories of Judy's life and of what she meant to each of you, to each of us. I'd like to call upon Jim, who's going to share a few words.
Most of these folks know I don't need a microphone, but the scripts are all torn up and everything, but I wanted to say thank you, but I'm not supposed to say that. All of you had a major impact in Judy's life and mine, and it's so unbelievable what you gave us and continue to give us. And I'm not going to go into great detail, but Judy went home. She went to see her mother, her father, and other relatives, because when she was last physical actions were like she was trying to walk and holding her arms up and say, I'm here, I'm coming. Now, Judy has not shut up this morning at all with me. She has given me instructions all morning of what to say, what not to say, and I've already been banned in Boston for this. But I never met a person that I didn't like. Judy never met a person that she didn't love. And that is, it's Judy. Always has been, always will be. And you all were very special to her, every one of you. And I want to say that she was special to me too. And I've got a whole group over here that are going to have to run the ark for me, at least steer it until I get lost in the wrong street. But they're our family. You're our family. It is so wonderful.
I'm going to ask Melissa to come forward. She's going to read Psalm 42, which was one of a collection of psalms that Judy loved to read and often turn to.
In the last few days, my mother asked me to read to her this psalm over and over and over again, and I kept trying to read it to her from my Bible, and she said, "No, Missy, out of this book." So this is a book that I will hold near and dear to my heart for the rest of my days, but it is Psalm 42. For the conductor, a maskil by the sons of Korah. As the deer calls longingly for the brooks of water, so does my soul call longingly to you, O God. My soul thirsts for God, the living God. When shall I come and appear before God? For me, my tears were sustenance day and night, when they say to me all day long, "Where is your God?" These do I recall and pour out my soul for what has befallen me, how I passed with the throng, walking slowly with them up to the house of God, with joyous song and thanks, a celebrating multitude. Why are you downcast, my soul, and why are you disturbed on my account? Hope to God, for I shall yet thank him for the salvations of his countenance. O my God, for me my soul is downcast, because I remember you. From the land of Jordan and Hermon's peaks, from Mount Mitzar, watery deep to watery deep calls out to the roar of your water channels. All your breakers and your waves have swept over me. In the day Hashem will command his loving kindness. Even by night his resting place is with me. A prayer to God of my life. I will say to God my rock, why have you forgotten me? Why must I walk in gloom in the foe's oppression? With a murderous dagger in my bones have my tormentors taunted me. When they say to me all day long, "Where is your God?" Why are you downcast, my soul? And why are you disturbed on my account? Hope to God, for I shall yet thank him for the salvations of my countenance, and because he is my God.
Jim, thank you for your beautiful words, which came so straight from your heart and touch us all very deeply. And you know how much we love you, and what you mean to us, and what Judy means to us, and your whole family. And Missy, thank you for that beautiful reading of Psalm 42, and to your brother and sister for standing by you together. It was very moving for us to watch the three of you together up here, holding on to each other, drawing strength from each other. And I know your mother was listening very closely as you read those words. Judy was a very loving and devoted wife to you, Jim. And a loving sister to you, Donna. And a loving, caring, proud mother to you, Peter and Laura, to Melissa and Anthony, and to you, Jeannie and Scott. And a loving grandmother to Andrew and Catherine and Karsten and Noah and Callie and Molly and Liam and Zoe. And a very proud great-grandmother to Thomas and Connor. All of you loved Judy in life, and now we're left to revere her memory in death. And we pray that her memory bring you comfort and that her presence always sustains you and guides you. Judy was born in Oklahoma City in 1922. Her family moved around a lot in the early years, from state to state across the Southwest. Her father worked in the oil industry and the gas industry. Those were years of much transition. And then, Donna, you came onto the scene some 15 years later after Judy's birth. You were the sister that Judy hoped and dreamed of, that she longed for, to have a sibling. But neither she nor you could have predicted what would then happen. By the time you were 2 and Judy was 17, your father had passed. And your mother, she had to work to support the family. Was not able to be home in the way that a mother was traditionally home, particularly in those days. And so Judy became not just a sister, but like a second mother to you. In some ways, like the first mother to you, because she was the one who picked you up and dropped you off and fed you and cared for you and looked after you. You told me that Judy was the light in the room, and how much you looked up to her, and how she looked after you. In fact, she never really stopped looking after you. She was, you reflected on last night, at times bossy. A side of her, by the way, that none of us ever saw. Well, yes, I guess we did. And in fact, in the end, in the hospital, while she was spreading around all the love and telling everyone how much she loved her and that she would be there for them, for you, she had a to-do list. But you, growing up, admired her so much and just wanted to be like her, so much so that you even got the same haircut. She taught you how to tie your shoes, how to skate, how to bake cookies. And you even went on dates with Judy and Jim. You would sit in the back seat and share with them great memories of fun and flowers and laughing. And you shared with me that once when I think you were in your 40s, you said, I think that was right, if not, please correct me, but you went on a date and you didn't call Judy when you got home. I mean, you were in your 40s. Why would you do that? And you didn't call her in the morning. You went to work and you went out to lunch with a friend, and then the police came looking for you. Because Judy was in a panic. You hadn't called. What had happened to you? God forbid. She was always looking out for you. In later years, when you married, your relationship with Judy shifted to a very close, very special, endearing sister relationship. But she never stopped looking out for you, never stopped caring for you, or giving you that to-do list. You loved her deeply, and she loved you deeply, and you shared a very special bond. And Jim, there's only one word to describe the relationship that you had with Judy, and we all saw it. You were each other's beshert. You were destined for each other. Soulmates. You know, this is the Jewish tradition that before we're born, our souls in heaven are neither male nor female. And when they enter this world, they split in half. And each half of the soul, gendered, enters the world separately. And then they spend the first part of their life seeking out their other half, their literal soulmate, the one that when they are united with them, unites the original soul to its wholeness and completeness. And you were that soulmate to each other. And you united each other. The Baal Shem Tov, the great Hasidic master, he used to teach that when two halves of a soul find each other in that way and really unite and connect, the light shines forth from this world that reaches all the way to heaven. And the two of you together cause that light to shine. And we all saw it every time we saw the two of you together, how the light of your love for each other would fill the room with great joy. You met Judy when she was studying home ec at Oklahoma State University. You were also at Oklahoma State majoring in hotel and restaurant administration, and the two of you ended up in a chemistry class together, and you said to me, there must have been some chemistry. You told me that Judy was, these are your words, gorgeous and a wonderful person, and you asked her out 10 days after you met, and 3 months later she got pinned, as they used to say, and 4 months later you were engaged. Then you went into the Navy and she finished her degree. And you were married in Texas, where you were stationed. Jim, you told me that you discovered that Judy's family came with her as a package deal. Her mother and Donna joined with you on many outings, whether it was the drive-in or the picnic or the zoo, and you quickly became a part of their family. And that was a special blessing for you. The two of you were married in April 22nd, 1967 in Greenville, Texas, right? Which was coated by a sea of bluebonnets, which was one of Judy's favorite flowers, along, I think, with gardenias and hydrangeas. You were so well matched to each other that over the years you would often complete each other's sentences. You enjoyed going everywhere and doing everything together. You also enjoyed just being in each other's presence. The two of you shared over 50 years of marriage together. That's half a century in which you created an extraordinary legacy of love. You shouldered life's burdens and challenges together and shared in life's blessings and created this extraordinary family. She was truly, truly, truly the other half that completed you and brought you such joy. And she challenged you always to do more as you challenged her. And you walked life's path together, exploring and seeking and growing. I don't know many people who spend their life always expanding their circles of friends and people and relationships, seeking to challenge and expand their knowledge and their faith, to expand their doing God's work in this world the way the two of you did. You were an extraordinary team. And your love was very profound and deep. And Judy was extraordinary mother also to the three of you. You all used similar words, both last night and throughout the past week, to describe your relationship with your mother. You each at different times told me how she was everything to you, how she filled your life, how she was the one who was always loyal to you, would defend you no matter what, believe in you, was proud of you, cheered you on, helped you be who you are. Peter, you reflected on how close the family was as you grew up and shared memories of Texas when she was working, and sometimes Texas Six Flags was the babysitter. And then being in Cleveland and visiting her at UH and her work. You shared that when you joined the Marine Corps, she hated it the entire time. And by the way, many of us in this room know that because we heard about how much she hated that you were in the Marine Corps. But we also heard the other part that you reflected on, which was despite the fact that she hated it, And for those that don't know, the reason she hated it was because her father, right, was also in the Marine Corps and in World War II, and he had PTSD. So she knew the risks of being in the military, and that scared her because she loved you and she was concerned for you. So it wasn't not you, it was her love for you that made her hate it. But despite the fact that she hated it so much, she was so fiercely proud of you, and she was so proud of all of your accomplishments. And she came to your graduation from boot camp, and she visited you at Camp Pendleton. And you shared with me that when she came out to Camp Pendleton, you went to the beach together, but she also wanted you to take her to Mexico. I have to share this story because it's so wonderful. And so you took her to Tijuana. You know, if you're in Southern California, Pendleton, if those who don't know, Camp Pendleton is just outside of San Diego. So where do you go? Tijuana is the place you go. And they had a blast, margaritas and shopping, and she loved that Southwest flair. She grew up in the Southwest, right, which is also very Mexican influenced, even in the United States. So she loved in Hebrew we'd say the sviva. She loved the atmosphere there. And she even found there clear Mexican vanilla to use for her baking. And then you were on your way home and you approached the border, and there was the border guard, and you said, "Mom, pull out your ID." And she panicked. "What do you mean, pull out my ID?" He said, "You don't have your ID?" She said, "You told me I should only take with me what I need, so I brought my American Express card." You know, they say don't leave home without it. That was all she had. Well, Peter, you said that the border guard was not impressed. But all of us that know Judy know that she can talk her way out of a barrel with that endearing Oklahoma accent. So she began to the border guard, "You know, the funniest thing happened." And then you said, out came the family pictures, until finally the guard just waved them on and said, "Just go. Just go." And she visited you also when you were working with the Marines in D.C., and you'd be gathered with all your Marines around you who were under your command when she would walk up shouting, "PJ, PJ." And the Marines would kind of stand at the breath, "PJ? PJ?" And then she would tell the Marine stories. Well, when he was 6 years old, you know, you said to me, and we all know it, the Marines is kind of a tough guy culture. So you could imagine that Judy had given his subordinates weeks of material to embarrass and egg on their commander. But all with great love, great devotion, great pride in you for everything that you are and everything that you stood for. And Melissa, Missy, you shared also this deep love that your mother had for you. And as I said a moment ago, this quality that even if you were wrong, she would tell you you were wrong. But even if you were wrong, despite the fact she would tell you you were wrong, she would stand up to you. She would stand up for you. She would stand up for you, be loyal to you, and defend you to the end, even if you were wrong. And you gave me a beautiful example once in first grade. And I'm touched by it in part because you remember that, because that's not yesterday. It's not so long ago, but it's not yesterday. That didn't come out right. But you know what I meant. First grade is first grade, right? So in first grade, you had to stay in for recess because of something that you did with a math paper. You crumpled it or tore it up because you were frustrated. And she marched over to the school and she gave that teacher what for? Because she should have individualized the instruction in a way that you would be able to understand it and absorb it and not frustrated you instead. This was long before we were talking about individualized instruction in schools and accommodations. But Judy was ahead of her time, and she knew what you needed, and she stood up for you and defended you, as she did for all three of you your entire lives. She was, you said, tenacious, and woe to anyone who brought any of you grief or stood in your way. And you all reflected that you share that quality that she passed on to each of you. that no matter what, you will not stop and you will not quit. And Missy, you shared that she always would share her opinions and her thoughts, whether you wanted to hear them or not. And that though you are very independent, you knew that your mother was always just a phone call away. Missy, you also reflected with me on the fact that your mother raised you to be a good, strong Christian. That you are who you are because she created you. At one point, she sent Jim to get you an illustrated children's Bible because it was important to her for you to study Scripture in a way and at a level that you could absorb as a child. And he went all over town looking to find just the right one for you. And it turns out that your father still has that in the house. When you learned that, you said, I want it back. Growing up, there was always Sunday school and church. You were taught from a young age that God was a silent listener. You were taught to always be kind, that when no one seems to be watching, God is always watching, and that we are accountable for our deeds. She instilled in all of you the sanctity of every human being, to look and see people and not look away, to see every person as a child of God, to know that we are all the children of God. And Missy, because of that solid foundation that she gave really to all three of you, but you, Missy, went on to teach, and then you and Tony started a soup kitchen, and now you work on missions for your church, a 7,000-member church in Texas. And all of that is because of what she imparted to you. And though later in life your mother and father chose a different religious path than the one that they had taught you as a child, in reality, they never veered from the path they taught you as a child, because to her last breath, she lived a life of deep faith in God, of deep commitment to the study of Scripture and the role of prayer in her life, to the sanctity of every single human life, to knowing that God is watching us and that we're responsible for our deeds, to know that God is there to help us and carry us and lift us forward through difficult times, the importance of community and of covenant. Those things always remained important to her. That never changed. And that piece of her lives on in all three of you, and Missy, especially in you, and you're carrying on your work within the church. All of us saw that faith that she had. We saw it up in the Assuran congregation, in her immersion, in her study of Torah, in her devotion along with Jim together to Sabbath services and festival services, in her becoming adult bat mitzvah, in both of your parents' involvement in social action work in the synagogue and community work, in the way that they extended themselves to every person who they met, always seeking to help, whether it would be through Jim's work in the kitchen or through a mitzvah project, helping those in need. Everyone became her friend, and she looked after everyone. And she always spoke with a deep sense of faith and trust in God. Even these past 3 years that were so very difficult for her. And I remember, she studied with me for her conversion to Judaism. We studied together for a long time. Then your father studied with me for conversion afterward for a long time. So we've spent a lot of time in personal study of holidays and prayers and concepts and faith. And then came the opportunity to travel to Israel together. And Jim, you and Judy were so very excited about coming to Israel. And it meant so much to you to be able to set foot in the Holy Land and to breathe the air of the Holy Land and to connect to its religious sites and what it means. And everywhere we went, the two of you were so uplifted and so filled with excitement and energy. Every opportunity. And then unfortunately in Israel, you both became ill. And in some ways it was a blessing. We got to spend a special week together, just the three of us. The whole trip went home, we stayed. Just the three of us in Jerusalem for a week to do whatever we wanted to do. And it was extraordinarily special and very, very meaningful. And when she came back, it was just shortly after she was back that she was diagnosed with the fibrosis. And when she was confronted with that, where did she turn for her strength? To the two places that were always most important to her family and to God. And each of you, and her faith and trust in God and her study of Torah and her immersion in prayer and in Tehillim and Psalms. And those are the things that carried her forward and gave her strength to face every day. And she did. And she lived every day, and she never let the condition get her down, never let it ruin her mood, never let it impede her involvement in her life with her family and community and her relationship with God. To the very end, she lived life fully, with love and with courage and with hope and with faith. And she was inspiration to all of us in that way. And Missy, you shared with me a very beautiful teaching by the renowned theologian Paul Tillich. He said there are two ways people read the Bible. One way is to hold the Bible and use it to make a point or win an argument or use it as a tool or a weapon. But the other way is people who open the Bible and instead of holding the Bible, they are held by the Bible, held by scriptures. And you added that during your mother's lifetime, she held her Bible and she allowed the Bible to hold her. And that's a beautiful description that captures your mother very well. And it's something for all of us to strive for in our own life of faith, to be held by the Bible. And Jeannie, you had such extraordinarily deep and passionate and loving relationship with your mom. Moved by her love and her caring and her compassion, she was for you, as Peter and Missy also said, your whole world. And you would have done anything to have her still be here with you. She was always there for you. And you shared that even when you were little, when she would drop you off at daycare on Mother's Day out, how you would cry because you hated to be separated from her. And even your siblings said that, she would be clear to them that I'm your mother, not your friend. But that somehow you broke through that barrier and you were also her best friend. You talked to your mom 3 to 5 times a day, and you did everything with your mom. And you saw her every couple of days, sometimes every day. She gave both of your boys their first bottle, and she held them. The two of you shopped together, went to the nurseries together, and gardened together, went to musicals at Playhouse Square and theater together. Went to all of your kids' stuff together. She was always there for everything that they did. She was so proud of both of them. And Noah, who's the football star in the family, when he was a sophomore playing football at the high school in Avon, and you shared that a lot of kids were on the football team. They managed to get all the kids on, and that meant that the sophomore kids, they never actually got to play during that sophomore year. Now he plays, and he's amazing. But in that sophomore year, they don't yet play in the big games. But his first came, and your mom insisted on being there. She wanted to be there, and he ran out, and he was on the sideline. Didn't matter. She was so proud, and she didn't miss a single game, whether he played or not. She was always there with him. And you went to every medical appointment with her, stood by her. And in the hospital, toward the end, you shared with me that you laid your head down on her chest and you said to your mom, I'm so sorry this has happened. And Judy took your hair and twirled it like she did when you were young, comforting you. To the end, you were her little girl. She loved all 3 of you so much, and she was so proud of you. And all of us who knew her from the community and from our congregation, and I'm sure from the Methodist Church before our congregation, knew a lot about all of you because she was always talking about her children and her grandchildren and then great-grandchildren, always sharing with us stories, pictures, because you were the center of her life. And as she loved each of you, so she also loved deeply Laura, Anthony, and Scott, who were sons and daughter, not in law, but in love. Scott, you shared how you looked up to her and admired her, and if she wanted something done, she knew she could always call on you. And Laura grew very close to Judy as well, particularly after an illness that Laura experienced, and they developed a very special bond, including a shared love of gardening. And Peter, when your mom would come out to Seattle, you knew that meant that it was going to be a hit on your bank account because they would have to change up things in the garden or the landscaping, so it just had to be. And Tony, you two also had a very special relationship with Judy. She loved all of you. And her grandchildren and great-grandchildren, they were the jewels in her crown. Well, how she could crow about them. How she loved them and loved to talk about them and to see them. And she felt close to all of them. Even though distances can make things hard, she loved all of them equally and felt very close to them all. Peter, your kids would come out many times and spend 2 weeks at a time at the house with Judy and Jim. And they didn't go running around town and doing big sightseeing things. They did the most important thing. They hung out at home and spent quality time with their grandparents, hanging at the house, working in the garden, being together. And Missy Carson had expressed to you that she knew that her mama was always cheering her from the sidelines. And Callie expressed that she was sorry that Judy could not hear her sing one more time. And Jeannie, your kids had the extra blessing of living close. And so seeing Judy often and developing a very special bond with her. Molly was really close. They had a really special bond. And Molly was a little Judy in many ways. Like Judy, you know exactly where she stands and she questions everything. And Molly, you shared that you had so many special memories of making potatoes and brownies, of the trip that you and your mom made to Ireland with Jim and Judy, trips to Niagara Falls, of when you all got Annie, a special dog. The two of you, you really got each other. There was just this kind of cosmic connection that you just were in sync. And Noah, I hope I can say this, but I know that she called you Noah Bedoa, right? That was the nickname. She was so proud of you, of your accomplishments, of your football. And every time you came over, it was, Noah, could you just help me move these flowers, or just fix that? And once you came over, and I don't know why, going to your grandmother's house, your grandmother particularly, you would think this, but you said that you didn't know that you would be gardening. And of course, you did end up gardening. You had worn your good shoes. So ever since when you come over, she always would ask you, do you have the right shoes? And the two of you, Noah, you and Molly, you would make these handprints and footprints on stones that were placed in the garden every year. And she loved watching you ski and snowbird, water ski and snowbird. Loved to play Yahtzee. And there were those great holiday parties that were held at Judy and Jim's house with like 200 people. And all those hand-rolled, hand-cut, iced cookies, they had to be made just exactly right. And the grandchildren would help to make those, and they had to be done just the way Judy said, except Molly was the only one who could get away doing it her own way, because she had the same strong streak that Judy did. All of you were the great joy and blessing in Judy's life. I know she was in your life, but you were also in her life. You illuminated each other's lives and each other's souls in profound ways. And the same way that Judy loved her family, she loved everybody. And Jim said the real truth. the second half. I don't know about the first half. He said that he's never met a person he didn't like, and Judy's never met a person that she didn't love. The only correction I would make, Jim, is I would say both of you have never met a person that you didn't love. You guys just love everybody, and you embrace everybody. And everybody is like family from the first moment that you meet them. And you're there to help when they're in need, and you're there to celebrate when there's something good, and just to connect in meaningful ways and profound ways. And that's why you've developed such an extraordinarily wide circle of friends within the congregation, all of whom think they're part of your family, as do your friends from all the other walks of your life and from the places that you work. There's one doctor in particular who you shared with me. She came to you and told you that Judy was her second mother. And she came to see her when she was dying, and she said to you that she didn't get a chance to say goodbye to her first mother, and she was moved that she had this chance to say goodbye to her second mother. I talked, Judy had an extraordinary professional life, and I want to remark on that because it was also a very deep part of who she was. Family was first and foremost center in her life, but she took great pride in her work and the lives that she touched through her work. She graduated, as I said, from Oklahoma State with a degree in home economics and nutrition. And she went on to work for the Oklahoma State University, and then in Dallas, she quickly established herself as a very well-known, highly respected, famous nutritionist and dietitian at the Children's Medical Center. And she worked with some of the schools there as well. And then here in Cleveland, Judy became somewhat of a legend. She worked in pediatric nutrition at UH Rainbow Children's Hospital. Her work extended beyond just nutrition into metabolic and genetic issues, as well as pediatric diabetes and cystic fibrosis. She started the PKU camp here, Homie Dakota. And she and Jim would help run that camp. Even tested the foods, I think you said, right, to make sure that they were good. She was heavily involved in medical outreach to the Amish community. She was published in research studies, and she regularly appeared on the news in Cleveland as their go-to authority for dietitian-related topics. She also taught nutrition and however you say that, dietetics. That's what I'm looking for. Thank you. So they all said it in unison. She taught nutrition and dietetics to the students at the Case Western Medical School, many of whom became nutritionists and dietitians at the Cleveland Clinic. So she had a very profound impact on both the Cleveland Clinic and university hospitals. Pretty much everyone in this city who sees a nutritionist or a dietitian was ultimately influenced by Judy. And she was extraordinarily patient and compassionate in her work. All of her patients became her fans and remembered her long afterward and would come back to her. Many have made comments on her Facebook page after her passing. Jeannie, you shared that you once took your kids to the doctor, and the doctor handed you some literature on nutrition. And you picked it up to read it and saw that it was written by a Judy McConnell. You looked up at the doctor and said, I don't really need this. I live this. And once, Donna, you shared that you were taking two medicines together, and the doctor looked at you and looked at your name and said, Wald, are you related to Judy Wald McConnell? And you said, yes. And he said to you, does she know that you're taking these two medicines together? She wouldn't let you do that. Everyone knew her. And she touched so many lives through her teaching and her medical work that they are beyond count. Judy also loved her gardening. She was an extraordinary gardener with a very, very green thumb. I had a chance last night with Peter to tour her garden. She's always talked about it. It was the first time I actually walked through it. And it is extensive. It's huge. And so beautifully and meticulously laid out with the most gorgeous flowers and plants and beautiful stepping stones and a rocking bench. Just magnificent. Really, really magnificent. And she took great pride in her gardening, and she loved the garden. It was her go-to place for serenity and peace and focus. And Jeannie, you shared that she had this hydrangea plant that she gave to you. It was planted at your house, and it never bloomed for 2 years until this past month, when just now suddenly it bloomed with an extraordinary number of flowers. And I think that was Judy's way of kind of staying with you in those blossoms. It's appropriate that Judy was such a gardener because she was a nurturer of her plants and of her family and of all of us. She also loved to needlepoint. She was incredibly artistic. And there are many needlepoints throughout her house. Many of us have seen them. They are, every one of them, meticulously done. Beautiful, outstanding works of art that took many long hours to create, hundreds, thousands of hours to create them. There's one piece on the wall in the kitchen, and Peter, I think you were the one who pointed out to me that it was these little boxes that together made a larger design. And kind of like those photos they do, where they're little photos, but when you stand back, you see a larger image. It was the same kind of a thing out of needlepoint. And you point out that every single box in that piece of art was a different type of needlepoint stitch. It was like a masterwork. Every single kind of stitch that could be used was used in that creation. Really quite astounding. And she made this gorgeous, beautiful 12 tribes that was very... I'm sorry. I'm embarrassed. I apologize for that. She made this beautiful, beautiful 12 tribes of Israel needlepoint. And you talked about how many thousands of hours she put into it and how she would, if it wasn't exactly right, she would rip out the threads, even if it took her an hour, hour and a half to do, and then start that piece all over again to get it just right, because she was so exacting in her work. Judy was extraordinary in her love of humanity and her love of family and her love for people and her faith in God. She was brilliant and she was artistic. And she was a caretaker of everyone around her. And the last gift that she gave to everyone was that she taught us all how to not just live, but also how to die, how to face death. Because she lived life fully to the last moments, interacting with family and friends, even insisting, Jeannie, that you get that piece of art that she loved, that she didn't have time to get before she went to the hospital, and she made you buy it and bring it to her at the hospital. And at the same time she was living every moment, she was facing honestly that she was dying, and she spoke openly about it to each of you. Sometimes it was, for a moment, felt too much, but it was good because she helped you come to terms with it. And she let you know that it was okay, that she knew that she was going to a good place, that she was happy that she had lived a rich and a full life, that she felt she had accomplished the things that were important to her, and that she was ready to be embraced by God. She said that she had no regrets if we could all only live our lives that way. And she wanted you to know that, most important of all, she was not leaving you. That her soul, her spirit would always be with you, present in your heart, guiding you, watching over you, protecting you forever. And she will. You know that Nothing happens by coincidence. Everything is by God's hand. And God chose to take Judy from this world at a particular time in the Jewish calendar. We are in the weeks that lead up to Rosh Hashanah, to the Jewish New Year. And very soon we will celebrate the beginning of the month before the New Year, the month of Elul. The rabbis teach us that Elul is the month of love. It is the month when, according to tradition, Israel and God reconcile with each other. God forgives us of our sins, promises to grant us blessing in the coming year. The rabbis said the name of the month, Elul, Aleph Lamed Vav Lamed, is an acronym. It stands for Ani L'Dodi V'Dodi Li. I am my beloved's and my beloved is mine. Words from the Song of Songs in the Bible, which the rabbis understood as a description of the love between the children of Israel and God, but also as the love between a man and a woman. And Jim, those words express the love, the profound love that you and Judy shared, and the love that Judy shared with all of you, and her love of God. So God chose to take Judy in this month of love, to show his love for her, and to recognize her love for you. This is a time in the Jewish calendar of hope and new beginnings. And that's what Judy wished for each of you, that you would move forward from this place not in tears, but to begin anew, to take the love that she gave you and to build upon it, so that you can create your legacy in the same way that she did. The family is a circle, and that circle has been broken, but you can heal that circle and make it whole again by taking the love and the lessons and the blessings that Judy gave to each of you and passing them on now to each other. Yehi Zichronah Baruch, may her blessing, may her memory always be for a blessing. And we say together, Amen. We'll rise now for the memorial prayer.
El Mare Rachamim Shochen Bamromim Ametzimenu Chanechona Tachat Kanfei HaShechina B'malot Kedoshim Utorim Kezorak Yemasirim Et Nishmat Yehudit Bat Avram V'Sara Shachal Olama Begarenet Emenukata Anna Barachamim, Hastira Beseta Kanafakali Olamim, Utsur Butsur Chayim et Nishmata, Ronayona Chalata, Vitanok Bashalom Mishkava, Vinamar Amen. Exalted, compassionate God, grant infinite rest in your sheltering presence among the holy and pure, to the soul of Yehudit Bat Avraham V'Sara, Judy Walt McConnell, who has gone to her eternal home. Merciful One, we ask that our loved one find perfect peace in your eternal embrace. May Judy, who lived a life filled with righteousness, kindness, and love, Menschlichkeit is the word we use in Yiddish. May her kindness give her a reward of sitting beside God's throne in eternal rest. May she rest in peace, and we all say, Amen. And as Judy would say, Shalom, y'all.